whether or not, in fact, the pandemic is gone in China. Are they still lying?
Yes, Maria, the Chinese Communist Party is still lying. Back in January, I knew that this virus had the potential to become a worldwide pandemic for two reasons. Not because I'm a scientist or an epidemiologist, but because I could see, one, how the Chinese Communist Party was lying, and two, the dramatic, extreme measures they were taking, like locking in 75 million people into their homes and apartment buildings. Those two things simply did not line up. You see it again today. So, for instance, China says they have no more new cases, no more new deaths, yet they just closed all movie theaters nationwide only a few days after having opened them up. Or look at some of the mortuaries in Wuhan itself. They say they've only had 2,500 cases that have resulted in deaths or so, yet a single mortuary has ordered more than 5,000 urns. You can look at these basic facts to know that the Chinese Communist Party is still lying today as they were in December and January, and that's why what could have been a local health problem in Wuhan turned into a global pandemic from which more than 2,000 Americans have now died. It's not just that they won't allow the CDC into the country, they also have kicked out reporters from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. That's the hallmark of a communist government that is trying to cover up the biggest story in the world. What we know now is about the same as what we knew a month ago, very little. We do know that the virus did not originate in the wet market in Wuhan. Even the Chinese Communist Party has now acknowledged that. All the way back in December, though, we knew that origin story was a myth. The Lancet published a study of the first 40 cases of coronavirus, and 14 of them had no contact with that market. So the virus went into that market, which acted as an accelerant before it came out of that market. As for what's happened in that biosafety level 4 laboratory, the super lab in Wuhan, we still don't know because the Chinese Communist Party refuses to come clean. We do know that they have researched coronaviruses and filed legislation that would insist that we stop our reliance on China, that we bring back that manufacturing capability to the United States and give tax incentives for people who do that, that we use the federal government's purchasing power through agencies and programs like Medicare, Medicaid, the Department of Defense, and the VA to create a domestic market for pharmaceuticals made in America, and that we ultimately cut off the imports of all Chinese drugs.